Welcome back, everybody, to another rendition of the Pokemon Adventures podcast, a short from the Every Pokemon Episodes Ever podcast. I am your host, Professor Chris G, and this is episode 3, chapter 3 of the long adventure that we're going ahead. So, I just want to start this podcast off. It's come to my attention after going through the first couple episodes that some of our fans are wanting the raw version, the Japanese translation version, as opposed to the one that's just put out in English already that came out here in the US. So I did a little bit of digging, and I was able to come across the raw versions of the manga series. And just for Patreon, I will make it Patreon exclusive. But I will start, I would say, probably I'll give it about a month or so. I will announce when I'm going to do it. But I will start reviewing the manga series dating back to even the first couple that I've already done, but I would do the Japanese translation versions going forward, and I will also keep up with the English version. So basically, I'm going to be doing each chapter twice, but whichever one that you prefer. Now, I am trying to keep the English version a little bit more PG, to bring in a little bit more of an audience, people that might want to listen to the manga series and not try to curse or anything that we do on our regular Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. But I just want to keep this kind of PG, keep it fun, have everybody come and enjoy these episodes. But I cannot say the same 100% for the Japanese translations, because after skimming through it, it does have a little bit more of a raunchier subtitles to it, some suggestive sexual content, and a few curse words here and there. But I mean, they're not terrible, because I mean, come on, it's Pokemon. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that I will start that, and I will make it Patreon exclusive. I will let you know when I'm getting ready to do so. Also, follow us on Twitter at PokeBreakdown. I will also be announcing it on there as well. But here we are. We are on Chapter 3, The Secret of Kangaskhan. And I'll give you a little small recap as to what happened in the previous episode. So, as you remember, Red released all of Professor Oak's Pokemon. They had to go around and they had to capture all these Pokemon again. And then the last one that they needed to capture was Bulbasaur. And it was at this point that Professor Oak was not able to capture Bulbasaur on his own. He actually needed a little bit of help. Bulbasaur seemed a little timid, but Red was able to talk him down and was able to capture him, created a small bond with Bulbasaur. Professor Oak liked it, gave him a Pokédex, said, you know what, you kind of have a sense for this type of stuff. Why don't you start an adventure and go out there and complete this Pokédex for me? And while you're at it, why don't you start in Viridian Forest, up north? It's not too far from here. And that's where we go. And I also made a correction on the last podcast that Red has a Bulbasaur and a Poliwhirl. The Nidorino seems to have been given to those kids back in Chapter 1. and it does not seem like he has a Nidorino. That still has yet to be confirmed. But as it stands as of right now, let's go ahead and start this podcast. And in the first scene, he releases Bulbasaur and Poliwhirl. And Red is like, alrighty then, let's go. Next frame shows Blue in the Viridian Forest alongside with his Charmander. And Blue is like, Charmander, go! And you see the flamethrower just go and hit something in a bush. And then all of a sudden you hear something drop. Bump. And Blue walks over. He's like, so, a Venomoth. He's like, I've already caught one of these. The Pokédex entry, it says Venomoth, a poison moth Pokemon. It's a type 1 bug, type 2 poison. The height is 4 feet 11 inches. Its weight is 28 pounds. And the moves that this one knows is Tackle, Disable, Poison Powder, and Leech Life. It says the dust-like scales covering its wings are color-coded to indicate the kind of poison it has. It has a short lifespan and appears to be the evolved form of the Venomoth. So that is the Pokédex entry. And Blue is like, will you come out? And Charmander kind of looks up at him and is like, huh? And then you hear, Argh! Where the heck did it go? Stupid Caterpie. And we're back with Red. And Red seems like he's a little frustrated. And then he hears a little scuffling in the bushes. He's like, oh ho ho. He's like, Poliwhirl, go. And then you hear plonk. And he's like, did you catch it? Did you? And then we go to the next frame, and Poliwhirl has been knocked out. He's like, what? Poliwhirl. So this Poliwhirl has a trainer? And then we look over, and there's Charmander just gleaming from ear to ear. And then Blue is like, we thought it was a wild Pokemon when we attacked. Don't take it personally. And Red's looking at him, he's like, you did this to my Poliwhirl. You'll pay. And he gets up and he goes over and he tries to throw a punch right at Blue. And Blue's like, ridiculous. We're both in this forest to capture Pokemon, so we're bound to cross paths sometimes, aren't we? And Red's like, Arr! He's like, eh? And Red's like, hey, you're that guy. Why do you keep... And then they hear, what's that? And Blue's like, so it's come at last. And then you hear boom, boom. And then a bunch of twigs just cracking. And it's a large Kangaskhan. And Red's like, ah! Blue's like, I've been waiting for you, Kangaskhan. I heard you were around here somewhere, but you've been testing my patience. Charmander, attack! And Charmander lets out a nice big flamethrower. Crackle, crack, 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 crack. And Blue's like, I can't wait to add its data to my... Hey, that's a Pokédex. Red goes. And Blue just starts laughing. He's like, Red's now getting so frustrated. He's like, what's so funny? Blue continues and he's like, my granddad told me he gave a Pokédex to someone. So it was you, huh? Granddad? You mean Professor Oak? Though why'd he give a Pokédex to the likes of you? Well, never mind. I'll just show you how it's done. Charmander, final blow. And then Charmander lets out another flamethrower, Kangaskhan starts to get all sorts of agitated. It's weakening. Rah! That should do it, Blue goes. You're mine! And he throws his Pokeball, and Kangaskhan just swats it away. And Blue is like, oh, okay then, one more. And he throws it, and Kangaskhan swats it away. The fire attack's not strong enough. And then it looks like Kangaskhan, something's going on with it. And Blue's like, something's wrong. And then you see Kangaskhan pointing at its pouch. It's strong enough to repel the Pokeball, but it isn't attacking. And Red's like, of course, that's it. Wait, stop the attack. Blue's like, no way, this Pokemon is mine. Don't try to steal it from me. Don't you understand? The Kangaskhan is Charmander. Keep fighting. And then Red's like, but... just get out of my way. What are you? And then Poliwhirl shoots a water gun attack over at Charmander, and Charmander's like, Cha! And Blue is like, where do you think you're going, you little... And Red's running over to Kangaskhan. Are you okay? And Kangaskhan seems like it's a little hurt. Your baby, is it all right? And Blue's like, huh? And then you hear a little scruffling going on inside of the pouch. And boink! Out comes baby Kangaskhan. Red's like, it's hurt. Did a poison Pokemon hurt you? And then you see Red get out what looks like it's either an antidote or a potion. It has a P on it. He's like, there. All better now. And he gives it over to the baby Kangaskhan. No wonder you are protecting your pouch. If the fire hit it, your sick baby could have gotten badly hurt. Kangaskhan's like, God. Boom, boom, boom. And he walks away. Huh. Thanks a lot. If you hadn't butted in, I could have captured it, Blue goes. And then Red looks behind him. Come on, you know it isn't really winning if your opponent's at a disadvantage. Blue is like, Fuh. Save your slogans. And Red runs after him. Hey, wait up. My name's Red. What's yours? Huh? Well? Blue turns around. My name's Blue. Now shut up already and leave me alone. Red is like, Blue? Okay. Hey, Blue, I'm not losing to you. You hear me, Blue? I'm gonna win. And then we see Professor Oak in the background. He's like, my grandson and my new protege. And then we get to what seems like it's the last frame. And it's Red walking in one direction, Blue walking in another. Professor Oak goes, the path to become the greatest Pokemon trainer of all has gotten more competitive. Good luck to you both. And that is how we end Chapter 3. So this was a little bit of a shorter chapter. A lot was going on here. We met up with Kangaskhan. No Pokemon was captured in this chapter. But Blue formally introduced himself to Red. So now it seems like they are rivals now. And Blue is very, very aggravated with Red. So we don't really know the age difference between them. But it seems like Blue is a little older than Red. And he obviously has a lot more experience going into this. But who knows what's going to happen next. This was the first chapter so far that didn't really bleed right into the next one, because the next chapter is chapter 4, and it's titled Wanted Pikachu. And it's at that point that I'm going to end up ending this episode. So, like I said, I hope I'm doing a good job kind of telling this story from my end. If you are following along in the manga, we ended the episode on page 46. And that is the page that we have ended on so far. We're getting ready to start Wanted Pikachu. You will find out what happens on there pretty soon. If you are listening to this on the free feed and you are not a member of our Patreon, go ahead and sign up. What are you waiting for? All of these episodes that you are listening to right now have already dropped on Patreon. And to make it even cleaner, all of these episodes are blended into one, so you don't have these random interruptions each episode. So we literally blend the episodes going from chapter 1 straight to chapter 2, straight to chapter 3, straight to chapter 4, and I'm meshing them as 4 chapters at a time per file, basically making it one whole long episode. So what are you waiting for? Go over onto Patreon, subscribe, become a Patreon listener, get these episodes in advance, a month in advance going forward. And you won't have to worry about what's going to happen next, because you're already going to know. You're going to know before the regular audience. But that's enough plugging here. Again, follow us at PokeBreakdown on Twitter. And yeah, that's it. That's the end of this episode. So go ahead and shoot us some messages, maybe some things that you would like for me to do on these podcasts to kind of make it a little bit more enjoyable for you. And I will take everything into consideration like I have for our regular podcast. But don't forget to listen later this week to another new episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast with me and my co-host, Dougie Fresh, as we go down the long rabbit hole of depicting every single Pokemon episode ever. So, other than that, it was nice to be here with the rest of you today. And hopefully Red is getting ready to capture a new Pokemon, because so far he only has 2. And if you want to be a Pokemon master, you kind of need a little bit more than 2. But, alright everybody, let's get ready to sign out here. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you next week. And if you're listening to this on Patreon, I'll see you in just a few seconds, because we're getting ready to start the next episode. So have a good night, everybody, and I will see you later. Thanks.